The group chat lit up while I was staring at a grocery receipt on my kitchen counter, and I saw the one thing that made my stomach drop: the words engagement party with everyone tagged except me, and I stayed quiet as something broke inside. So why was my name missing, when I was the one who always paid, always showed up, always fixed what they broke? My name is Norma Cusimano. I am 28, and I work as a marketing director for a software company in Austin. I moved away for the same reason people leave a room full of smoke. You can love the people inside it, but you still need air. Back home in Ohio, my younger sister Waverly was the kind of daughter my parents liked to present: gentle, agreeable, easy to brag about. Her fiancé, Kieran, seemed kind in that steady, quiet way. The kind of man who shakes your hand and actually looks you in the eye. Me, I was the complicated one, not because I caused chaos, because I refused to live like an apology. On Thursday, my mother, Colette, called during my lunch break. Her voice had that soft sweetness that usually meant she wanted something without saying it. "Hey, honey," she said. "Waverly and Kieran are doing a little dinner Saturday. Nothing big, just close people." I paused, fork hovering over my salad. My mom never called me to share small plans. She called me when she needed money moved, feelings managed, problems erased. "A little dinner," I repeated. "Yes," she rushed. "Super low-key. You do not need to fly in or anything. You are so busy, and I do not want you stressed." There it was, the permission slip she was handing me to disappear. "Okay," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Tell Waverly I said congratulations again." My mom exhaled like she had avoided a fight. "I will." The call ended, but my body stayed tense, like it was holding its breath. That night, my boyfriend, Graham, watched me pace my apartment while he leaned against his own kitchen counter on FaceTime. He had flour on his shirt because he had been baking bread again, like he always did when he was trying to stay calm. "They are having a dinner and I am not invited," I said, trying to sound like it was a joke. Graham's eyes narrowed. "Norma, that is not normal." "It is probably nothing," I lied automatically. "You know my mom, she makes everything sound weird." "No," he said, "that was not weird, that was strategic." I laughed, but it came out thin. "You are dramatic." "I am protective," he corrected. "There is a difference." I should have listened to him, but I had spent my whole life swallowing discomfort before it could turn into anger, because anger in my family was treated like a character flaw unless it belonged to Waverly. Friday afternoon, I was in the middle of a meeting when my phone buzzed with an email notification. Vendor invoice attached. It was from a catering company in Ohio. I stared at my screen, pulse thudding in my ears. The invoice was addressed to my mother, but the payment link had been forwarded to my email. Under the total, there was a note in the message body. "Norma, can you take care of this today? We will settle up later. Love you." The number made my throat tighten because it was not dinner money. It was an entire event. Food stations, dessert table, bartender, rentals. The kind of invoice you do not send for a low-key gathering. My hands went cold as I scrolled and saw the line item that really made me freeze. Engagement celebration package. I did not call her right away, not yet. I took a screenshot first, then another. Then I clicked the payment link and stopped right before confirming. Because I recognized this pattern. They would hide me from the photos, but still use my bank account to fund the frame. I texted my mother. "What is this invoice?" She replied almost instantly. "Oh, that is just easier than everyone bringing dishes. It is still small." "Small does not come with a bartender," I typed back. A pause. Then she called. "Norma," she began, already sounding tired, like my questions were the problem. "Mom," I said softly, because soft was the only way I ever got the truth. "Is this an engagement party?" Silence. Then she exhaled. "It is not a big deal." I felt heat crawl up my neck. "Why are you asking me to pay for it if I am not even invited?" Another silence, longer this time. "Finally," she said, "Waverly thinks it is better if you are not there." "Better for who?" You know how you can be, Colette said, and the words sounded practiced, polished. You make people uncomfortable without meaning to. Your life is so different. People ask questions, and Waverly deserves one day that is just about her. My chest tightened, not because it hurt, but because it clarified everything. So I am a problem. No, she said too quickly. You are just complicated. Complicated? That word had followed me like a shadow for years. Complicated when I covered my dad's medical deductible. Complicated when I sent money for their mortgage. Complicated when I showed up with gifts, smiling, trying to be lovable enough to earn a seat at my own table. Reliable enough to rescue them, embarrassing enough to hide. I did not scream. I did not cry on the phone. I just said, okay. And my mother's voice softened in relief because she heard that one word as surrender. Good, she said. Thank you, honey. You know we appreciate you. After I hung up, I sat very still. My apartment felt too quiet, like it was waiting to see what version of me would stand up next. The old one would have paid the invoice and then cried into a pillow later, so no one had to deal with her feelings. But something in me had shifted. I opened my banking app. I looked at my savings. The vacation fund I kept postponing because there was always another family emergency, another celebration, another reason my needs could wait. Then I opened my email again and reread my mother's message. We will settle up later. I smiled, and it did not feel sweet. I clicked pay, but not from the account she expected. I used the credit card my parents had asked me to cosign for my sister years ago, the one I had kept open because it helped her build her score, the one that still had my name attached to it, the one I had been quietly monitoring for months because charges kept appearing that Waverly never mentioned. My finger hovered over confirm, and my mind went perfectly calm. If they wanted tradition, fine. I would be traditional. I would be the silent, helpful sister. I would pay the bill. And then I would finally collect the truth. When the payment went through, I took screenshots of everything, the invoice, the confirmation, the timestamp. I emailed the receipt back to my mother with one line. Taken care of. Have a beautiful night. She replied with a heart emoji, then quickly deleted it and sent, thank you. I stared at that message until my eyes burned. Then I texted Graham. They hid me, but they still asked me to pay. Graham's reply came instantly. Do not give them a dime. I typed back. Too late, but I did not pay the way they think I did. Then I opened my calendar and blocked off the entire weekend. I booked a flight, not to Ohio, but to somewhere bright and loud and alive, a place where no one knew my family's story well enough to edit me out of it. And as the confirmation email hit my inbox, my phone buzzed again. A new charge appeared on that cosigned card. A photographer deposit. In Waverly's name. For the same night, I was supposedly not invited to. My pulse stayed steady as I stared at it, because now I understood the full shape of their plan. They were not just erasing me from the room. They were using my name to build the entire illusion. Hold on, tiny break. I read the comments when I am worn out, and seeing your location reminds me I am not telling these stories into an empty room. Like, subscribe and drop your city, state, or country. Now, all right, back to the story. I forwarded the credit card alert to my private folder, took one more screenshot, and whispered to my empty apartment, okay. Because if they wanted me silent, I could do silent. But they were about to learn the difference between silence and surrender. I did not sleep much that night. Not because I was spiraling. I had done that too many times already. This time it was different. My mind felt sharp, almost cold, like it had finally stopped trying to negotiate with people who never intended to meet me halfway. I poured a glass of water, stood in my kitchen, and opened the credit card app again. There it was, photographer deposit, pending. My name was on that account, too, not just as the helpful sister, as the person legally responsible if it all went sideways. I felt a familiar ache rise up, that old shame that always showed up right before anger. The shame of being the one who got used, and then blamed for being useful. Graham called voice low, "You okay?" I looked around my apartment. It was quiet, clean, mine. No childhood furniture, no family photos, no proof that I belonged to them. "I am okay," I said. "I'm just done. Done people-pleasing. Done pretending I am surprised." He exhaled through his nose like he was trying not to swear. "Tell me what you are thinking." I walked to my desk and opened my laptop. "I am thinking I need a paper trail." "Good," he said, quiet, smart. So I did what I always did when work got chaotic. I made a plan, but this time it was for me. First, I called the card company. The representative was cheerful in that scripted way, and I forced my voice to stay steady while my stomach rolled. "Hi," I said. "I need to confirm something. I am a co-signer on this account. Am I able to request merchant receipts and spending history?" "Absolutely," she said. "You have full access. If you would like, I can email you the last several statements." I swallowed. "Yes, please." While she talked, I stared at the wall and tried not to think about how many times my family had said, "We are all in this together," like family was a shared burden they could hand me whenever they got tired. The statements hit my inbox within minutes. And that was the first real twist. Because it was worse than I expected. It was not just a few random purchases. It was years. A slow drip of charges that added up like a leak you do not notice until the ceiling caves in. Home decor stores, bridal boutiques, weekend hotel stays, a car repair shop in my hometown, a jewelry store I recognized because my mother had once joked about how Waverly deserved something nice after a hard month. My throat tightened as I scrolled. They had not borrowed from me. They had built a second life on my signature. I kept scrolling, and my fingers started to shake when I saw one particular line item from last year. A venue deposit. The description had Waverly's name attached to it. I felt my face go hot, then cold. Because I remembered that month clearly. My mother had called crying about a plumbing problem. Pipes burst. Insurance delay. They were so stressed. I had sent money, of course, because I was still playing the role. And the entire time, they were quietly putting wedding deposits on the card tied to my name. Graham's voice came through my phone again, softer now. "Norma, talk to me. What are you seeing?" I swallowed hard. I am seeing that they have been using me for years, and I just never looked directly at it. There was a pause, then he said, "Okay. You are not going to confront them, are you?" "No," I said. "I am not giving them a scene to point at and say, 'See, this is why we did not invite her.' That was always their trick. Make me react, then use my reaction as proof I was the problem. So I did not react. I documented. I saved every statement. I took screenshots. I created a folder labeled personal. I forwarded copies to myself and to Graham. I wrote down dates. I highlighted charges that matched big family moments. Then I made the second move. I emailed the catering company. Not angry, not dramatic. Just polite. "Hi, this is Norma Cusimano. I handled the payment for the engagement celebration package. For record keeping, can you please confirm the final guest count and the event address, and add me to any future correspondence?" I hit send and leaned back in my chair. My heart was pounding, but my face stayed calm. Because if they wanted to treat me like a wallet, fine. I was going to behave like a person who owns the transaction. 10 minutes later, I got a reply. "Hi, Norma, of course. We have 68 guests confirmed. Address is your parents' home. We will also need the host name for the signage at the buffet stations. Please confirm spelling." Host name. I stared at that line until my eyes stung. Because my mother had told me it was close people. Small, low-key. The lie was not just about excluding me. It was about making sure I stayed quiet enough not to ruin their image. And now, without me saying a word, a vendor had just asked who the host was. I did not answer immediately. I waited. I let them keep building the party like a stage set, convinced I would stay in the shadows. Then I replied, "Host name is Patricia. and please include my name as the payer for the invoice, as it will be needed for my records. Still polite, still calm. But suddenly, my name was attached to the paper trail again. Not as the problem daughter, as the person funding the celebration. The third twist came before midnight. A text from my mother. "Norma, did you email the caterer?" I stared at the message and felt something almost like satisfaction. Not because I wanted to hurt her, because for once she was nervous. I typed back one word. "Yes." Immediately, she called. Her voice was tight. "Why would you do that?" I leaned against my counter and looked at the packed suitcase by my door. "Because I paid," I said evenly. "I need receipts." "You do not need to be involved," she snapped. And then caught herself like she remembered. She was speaking to the person who fixes things. I stayed quiet for a beat longer than normal. Then I said, "I'm involved. You involved me when you asked me to pay." Her breathing changed, and I could hear the old strategy forming. She was about to guilt me, about to talk about family, about to say I was making things hard. Instead, I cut in gently. "Do not worry, Mom. I will not be there." There was a pause. Relief tried to slip into her tone again, but it sounded strained, like she did not trust it. "Okay," she said. "Good." Then she added, like she could not stop herself, "Where are you going this weekend?" I smiled, even though she could not see it. "Somewhere beautiful," I said. After I hung up, I turned my phone off for a while and finished packing. I did not pack like a woman running away. I packed like a woman leaving a job she had outgrown. Sunday clothes, a swimsuit, a dress that made me feel like my life belonged to me, a book I never had time to read because I was always putting out someone else's fire. Graham came over late, kissed my forehead, and helped me carry my suitcase to the door. "You are doing the right thing," he said. I looked up at him. "I do not want revenge." He nodded. "I know you want truth." Exactly. Because the truth was already there. All I was doing was placing it where it could finally be seen. At the airport the next morning, I stood in the security line with my shoes in a bin and my laptop on the belt, and my phone buzzed back to life with a new email. From the photographer. Subject line, timeline confirmation for today. My stomach flipped. I opened it. "Hi, Norma. Excited for the engagement celebration. Can you confirm the family shot list and the time you want the couple portraits to begin?" I stared at the screen, the noise of the airport fatting behind my ears. Because my mother had not just told me, it was a low-key dinner. She had told everyone I was not involved. And yet, in the vendor emails, I was clearly the point person. I could have replied with anger. I could have forwarded it to my mother and demanded an explanation. But I did what I had trained myself to do. I stayed calm. I replied with one simple sentence. "Please contact Patricia for the shot list. I am not attending, but I appreciate you confirming the details." Then, before I could overthink it, I hit send. And as I walked toward my gate, I felt it, that strange, steady calm again. Because now the vendors knew. My name was on the money, on the emails, on the receipts. And when the questions started at that party, my family would have only two choices. Tell the truth. Or get caught lying in front of everyone they were trying so hard to impress. The jet bridge smelled like coffee and recycled air, and I walked onto the plane with my boarding pass in one hand and the kind of calm in my chest that only shows up after you stop begging to be loved correctly. I took my seat, buckled in, and watched other people settle around me, couples whispering, a mom handing her kid headphones, a man already asleep before the doors closed. Normal lives, normal problems. For once, I wanted that, not the performance my family called love. My phone vibrated again, one last time before I turned airplane mode on. A text from my mother. "Do not do anything weird today." I stared at the words until my mouth went dry. Anything weird, like asking why I was erased, like noticing my name on the invoices, like refusing to fund a party I was not allowed to attend. I did not reply. The plane lifted, and the ground fell away so smoothly it almost felt polite. I leaned my head back and let my eyes close, not to sleep, but to stop hearing my mother's voice in my head. I was headed to Santa Fe. A last-minute ticket Graham helped me pick because he said, "Go somewhere that feels like you, somewhere with space, somewhere quiet, somewhere you can breathe." By the time I landed, the air was thin and sun-warm, with that dry desert smell that makes you feel like the world has been scrubbed clean. I checked into a small adobe-style hotel with wooden beams and soft rugs and a courtyard fountain that sounded like a whisper. The woman at the desk smiled at me like I belonged there. I went to my room, set my suitcase down, and stood at the window for a long moment. I did not feel guilty. That was new. I changed into a simple dress, pulled my hair back, and walked into town. I bought a coffee and a pastry, sat outside, and watched people drift past, laughing, talking, living like no one was keeping score. Then, right as the sun started to tilt lower, my phone began to explode. Not one call, not two. A flood. Colette, my father, Waverly, unknown numbers, a vendor, another vendor. Emma, my cousin, lighting up my screen with message after message. I stepped into a quiet side street, my heart steady, and answered Emma first. "Norma," she breathed like she had been running. "It is happening." My stomach tightened, but not with fear, with anticipation. "Tell me." "Okay," she said. "Your mom is at the house acting like she is hosting the Oscars. She keeps checking her phone like it is going to bite her. People keep asking where you are because you are not a secret and half the guests follow you." I leaned against a sun-warmed wall and let the heat soak into my back. And your mom tried to tell everyone you had a last-minute work crisis." I almost laughed, almost. But then Emma's voice sharpened. "Except the caterer asked for you." I blinked. "What?" "They came up to your mom with a clipboard," Emma said. "They said, 'We need Norma to confirm the signage and allergy list,' and your mom's face went white." My mouth went dry, not from shock, but from something darker. Satisfaction, because I had not exposed anyone. I had simply stepped away and the truth had stumbled into the room on its own. Emma kept talking, fast now. "Your mom pulled the caterer into the kitchen. I could not hear everything, but I heard her say, 'Do not say that name out loud,' like you were a curse word." I closed my eyes. "Then the photographer came in," Emma added. "He asked for you, too. Said he emailed you about the shot list. He was confused why you were not answering." I opened my eyes slowly, watching a couple walk by holding hands, smiling like the world was simple. "And what did my mother do?" "She lied," Emma said. "She said you were running late. She said you might swing by after dinner." I felt something in me settle, the final piece of the puzzle clicking into place. Because that was the plan. They wanted my money and my coordination, but they also wanted the option to point at an empty doorway and say, "See, she did not even bother to come," and then they could act like I was the one who abandoned them. Emma's voice dropped. "Then Kieran's mom showed her your payment confirmation." My fingers curled around my phone. "What?" "She saw it because the caterer printed the receipt," Emma said. "It has your name." And Kieran's mom asked, "Why is Norma paying for this if she is not invited?" My chest went tight, and for the first time all day, I had to breathe through something sharp. Not pain, not exactly. The terror of being seen. Because when people finally see you clearly, your family cannot keep painting you as the problem. "What did my mom say?" I asked. Emma let out a short, harsh laugh. "She said it is complicated." Of course she did. Complicated is what people say when they are guilty, but still want to sound dignified. Emma kept going. "Kieran asked Waverly straight up, 'Why did you exclude your sister?' And Waverly said you make everything about yourself. She said you always have to be different. She said she wanted one night without your energy." My jaw tightened. And Kieran just stared at her, Emma whispered, like he did not recognize her. I felt my throat burn, not because Waverly insulted me, because she finally admitted it. out loud, in front of the people who mattered to her. Then Emma said, quietly, like she was handing me something fragile, "Norma, Kieran asked to call you." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. I stepped back into the shade and answered. "Hello." "Norma," he said. His voice sounded shaken. "I am so sorry to call you like this." "It is fine," I replied, calm and clear. There was a pause, then he exhaled. "I did not know," he said. "I genuinely did not know you were not invited. I thought you were busy. That is what they told us." I believed him, which was the strangest part. The man my sister was marrying sounded more honest than my own family. "I am not mad at you," I said. "This is not on you." His voice caught. Why would they do this? I looked up at the sky. Blue, wide, endless. Like the universe was reminding me there was more life beyond my mother's house. "Because I do not fit their picture," I said softly, and they wanted the picture more than they wanted me. He went quiet for a moment, then his voice turned careful. "Norma, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." "Okay." "Are you the one paying for this party?" I did not hesitate. "Yes." Silence. Then he said, very quietly, "What else have you been paying for?" My stomach tightened. There it was, the question my family never wanted anyone to ask. I could have unloaded everything. I could have listed every sacrifice like a receipt, but I did not need drama. I needed precision. I said, "I am the cosigner on a card Waverly uses. I am also the person your vendors have been emailing. I did not realize until yesterday how much of this was being routed through me." His breathing changed. "My mom swore you were not involved," he said, and I could hear disbelief turning into anger. "She told my parents you chose not to come because you are always too focused on yourself." I let the words hang for a beat. Then I said, "I have been quiet for a long time. I am not doing that anymore." He swallowed hard. "I am standing in the kitchen right now, and your mother is crying, and Waverly is yelling at everyone like this is your fault." I closed my eyes. "And what do you think?" His answer came fast. "I think this is cruel. I think it is calculated. And I think the fact that Waverly is angry at you for existing is, honestly, terrifying." My fingers tightened around my phone. "I am sorry," he said again, quieter. "I am so sorry." I opened my eyes and looked at the street, the warm light on the buildings, the distant smell of food, the sound of strangers laughing. "Thank you," I said, "for saying that." He hesitated. "Norma, I do not know what this means yet, but I know I cannot ignore it. Not tonight, not ever." I could hear voices behind him, muffled, frantic. My mother trying to control the room, Waverly trying to control the story. Then Kieran said, like he had made a decision, "I am going to handle this." When the call ended, my phone immediately rang again. My mother. I let it ring, twice, 3 times. Then I answered, because I wanted my voice to be the last calm thing she heard before her performance collapsed. "Norma," she sobbed, "you need to fix this right now. People are leaving. This is humiliating." I leaned my head back against the wall, feeling the sun on my cheek. "No," I said evenly. "You are humiliated because you got caught." "How can you be so cold?" She snapped, and then her voice cracked again. "Waverly is devastated." I inhaled slowly. "She excluded me, lied about me, and still asked me to pay," I said. "That is not devastation, Mom. That is entitlement." My mother's voice hardened. "You always do this. You always twist things to make yourself the victim." I almost smiled. Because there it was. The script. If I stayed quiet, I was useful. If I spoke up, I was difficult. I lowered my voice. "I did not twist anything," I said. "I just stopped covering for you." Then I made my final move. While she was still breathing into the phone, waiting for me to fold, I opened the credit card app with my other hand. I tapped freeze card. My mother kept talking, still thinking I was trapped in the role. "Norma, you are going to ruin your sister's future." I watched the screen confirm the card was locked. Then I said, calm as dust settling, "No, Mom, I am just removing myself from a future where I am only valuable when I am paying." Her breath hitched. "What did you do?" I did not argue. I did not explain. I did not beg her to understand. I simply said, "I hope the party is everything you wanted." And I hung up. My phone buzzed again, and this time it was Emma. "You are not going to believe this," she typed. "The caterer just said the remaining balance is due before they serve dessert, and your mom is panicking because the card declined." I stared at the message, and something inside me went completely still. Not joy, not cruelty. Relief. Because finally, the weight had shifted back onto the people who placed it on me. That night, I ate dinner alone at a quiet restaurant with soft candlelight and a glass of wine that tasted like freedom. I did not check social media. I did not refresh for updates. I let the world spin without my hands on it. When I got back to my hotel, I turned my phone on one last time. A voicemail from my father, shaky and small, saying he was sorry, saying they made a mistake, saying they did not know how to fix it. A text from Waverly, only 2 words. "You ruined me." And one message from Kieran. "I saw everything tonight. I cannot marry someone who thinks love comes with an audience and a scapegoat. Thank you for not screaming. Your silence said more than any fight could." I set my phone down, walked to the courtyard fountain, and listened to the water. I did not feel victorious. I felt free. Because the real revenge was not the declined payment or the ruined party. It was the fact that I finally stopped paying for a place I was never allowed to sit, and that was the end.